episode segment of the Harsh Reality Podcast. And in this segment, I look to bring on professionals, influencers, scholars, and any knowledgeable or interested individuals to tell their own story and also to hear their unique takes on the news of the day. And I think it's way more beneficial and insightful to actually hear people's perspective than a traditional question and answer format. So we're going through topics and seeing, my guest pretty much perspective on these different topics we're going to discuss. So firstly, let me shout out the Melanated Conscious Society, MCS, headquartered in Jacksonville, is a mentorship organization teaching various life skills as well as knowledge of self to our youth. Make sure y'all follow them on Facebook and Instagram for the latest news and meetings and valuable information overall. And also shout out to the KWAZ radio family. KWAZ providing the latest and greatest and conscientious-oriented content. Follow them on all forms of social media, as well as subscribe to the Bitter Medicine podcast, hosted by the brother Koku, and the Pro Black Perspective, hosted by Oni Tase. And lastly, the podcast is now on Patreon, so please donate. And of course, all proceeds go to upgrading the show and providing the best content we can for loyal listeners. Also to be featured in our Black-owned business spotlight, or if you're looking to reach out to the show to maybe drop some show topics or just, give us your feedback, you can hit us at theharshrealitypod@gmail.com, theharshrealitypod@gmail.com. Now, without further ado, let's get to our esteemed guest here. Our first guest for this inaugural episode is the beautiful and powerful Marlissa Mars Herring. She's the CEO, co-founder, and president of Fit Black and Educated Incorporated. And she has been in the fitness industry for over 10 years, motivating people through sports, personal training, and obstacle course races. And today she has graciously accepted my offer to come on the podcast and offer her insightful opinion to our guest and share some of her knowledge. Mars, what up? Been a minute.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, I'm good, man. Hanging in there, trying to avoid all this drama with these election results. I'm down here in super Trump country, so, they're a little salty down here. So I introduced you a little bit, let you know maybe a little smidgen of your background, but I want to give you the opportunity to tell us about yourself and any information you would like the listeners to know about you and your organization.
Okay, well, a little bit about me. I'm from Elgin, Illinois, around the Chicagoland area.
Illinois,
and,
what up?
Yep. So always a diehard Bears fan. So I actually didn't play any sports growing up, like organized sports. I always was, because my dad was in the Marine Corps, served during Vietnam, and my mom was a very active person herself, so I grew up in a really active household. So the idea of being still and not doing something just never entered my mind. So I always was like the kid that was climbing trees, jumping fences, flips, like whatever I could do. And that pretty much is translated over into the rest of my life and what I wanted to do with my life and growing up. I mean, my first goal was to go into the Marine Corps. That didn't happen. So I made a meniscus twice. So I was like, what else do I love? And I was like, hey, I love sports. I love fitness. So that's when I decided to go hardcore into that industry. Okay. And that taught me to Fit Black and Educated, which I started in 2017 as a t-shirt. I moved to San Diego. And I came out here and everyone says San Diego is that place where everyone is fit and all of those things, but that's not what I saw. Especially when it came to the Black community. We were just Black people are like 6% of the population out here in the entire San Diego County. So I just saw a small little pocket and it wasn't a fit community whatsoever. It wasn't a community that, hey, you could find people out playing, basketball or football or just, walking around along, the ocean along the beaches, which is what I was used to seeing in Chicago. Like I was used to seeing Black people everywhere doing some kind of activity. Being here, I was like, wait, what's going on? So that idea when there isn't like something that you need there, create the space that you want. And that's why I created Fit Black and Educated.
Oh, word. That is dope. That's a quotable right there. We got a couple quotables per episode. Create the space you want. We writing that down. We getting a t-shirt with that. That's good money.
Yeah.
So, you hit a point, an important thing, kind of one of the topics I wanted to talk to you about is the importance of, Black fitness and, a lot of stigma associated with the fit lifestyle in urban communities. I know, from Chicago area myself, so shout out. The Bears kind of sucked that they just stunk it up, but whatever.
Yeah.
We'll bounce back. But that's one of the things I want to talk about is the stigma. So, because I know growing up, when we thought of fitness or when we thought of anything, we thought of white people jogging in the morning. You know what I'm saying? That little suburban type of deal, and it never occurred to us, to maybe go to the gym. And a lot of places, I say, particularly in the black community, because I still go home and I still visit family, still go back to the old neighborhoods, and it's like no gyms. You may have like a park with like a little bit of fitness equipment that's like old and rusted out, and you wake up, if you wake up early in the morning, like, military people, I did 7 years in the military, so I'm kind of used to waking up early at times. And, when I'm down here, when I wake up early, first thing I see in the morning is, cliche white people jogging in the morning.
Yeah.
And you don't really see that, and I never recall seeing that growing up in the hood, as I call it. So that's one of the things I kind of want to hit you about. And why do you think it's a stigma associated kind of with a fit lifestyle in black communities?
I think, first of all, we have to redefine what fitness is. Because it's not just about, going to the gym, or not just about who can lift the most, how much you can bench press. I get that question all the time. Being fit isn't about that. Being fit is whether or not you're able to do your daily task without being out of breath. A lot of times people can't even climb. You have some of the fittest people like, oh yeah, I'm good, and like climb the stairs and they're out of breath. You're like, wait, I thought you were fit. So it's within our community, a lot of the things that we do are fitness related already. We just don't look at it that way because we're so used to seeing the cliche white people, and the representation that we see on TV, Instagram, on all forms of social media is always white people or someone else who doesn't look like us doing these things. We go running for no reason sometimes. We will race one another on the block, and we don't realize that's exercise. We'll decide, hey, let's just hop fences or, play, like throw the ball around. That's fitness. But we don't compute it as being that. We have this idea of what it is. And even, when we look at some of the things that we used to do as kids, whether or not you used to jump buildings or whatnot, now that's called parkour. Like, but we were doing that already, and now you guys want to slap a label on it. So a lot of things we were already doing, we just didn't look at it that way. Now, on the other hand, when it comes to saying, hey, where's the gym in our neighborhood? Maybe some of us really do just want to hit the gym. Those things I feel like are intentional, just like you have liquor stores on every corner. Those things are intentional, and these food deserts, so that we're not living a healthy lifestyle physically, not taking in the right nutrition, which is going to affect our mental in the first place. Exactly. So all of those things not happening in our community, you have a community of people that are lost.
Exactly.
So
that's one thing I kind of hit on too. I kind of glossed over that, but that's one thing. I got into traveling a little bit, and one thing I started hitting is like the smoothie shops and things like that. And like, all right, go back to the hood. All right, where's the smoothie place at? Oh, you have to go to the suburbs to go to the smoothie. Like, oh, okay, and we didn't even realize how unnutritious the food is. I remember going to certain restaurants, and you'll see the health department will close a restaurant down, and then like next day is back open and you're right back in it. You don't even think twice. You're mad the health department closed. You don't even think, why did the health department close this restaurant today? It's like, oh, okay, they closed today. We'll be back tomorrow.
Like there's a reason it was closed.
Exactly. But like I said, that doesn't cross your mind because you may only have 3 or 4 restaurants that's within walking distance of, your place. And we don't even own half of those restaurants. I remember it used to be like, it was one black owned restaurant, I think, in the neighborhood. The other like 3 was like owned by like Arabs and like white people. You know what I mean? So. And
that's the thing. We have to, that whole creating the space. If some of us if we want to introduce healthy things to our community, don't open another fried food place. Open up a vegetarian restaurant. Open up a vegan restaurant. Give us options of restaurants to go to. Don't just stick with the traditional thing because that's not healthy for us in the long run. Sure, having it every once in a while, but if you're trying to build a healthier community that's mentally, physically, and emotionally fit, come on, that's not going to get it.
Exactly. But and then like you said, when you're creating a space, that's an obvious gap in the industry, right? That's an obvious gap that you can feel in those neighborhoods, and we need preferably black professionals to fill those gaps. You know what I'm saying? Oh, and you can make money like that. It's definitely people that are interested in these urban communities and fitness and in nutrition, and you can make a lot of money doing that. But
like there was one place in Chicago really recently that opened up. I didn't even think about it myself until I read this article about it. There are all these 5Ks that take place around the city, and you don't really see a street fitness store on the south side or in these black neighborhoods. So they went and opened one, and now it's black owned in Chicago, and it's great. You know, they host these, they have packet pickups where you can go like, before your race instead of driving, 20 minutes up north or 20 minutes downtown to go pick up your packet or to pick up the things that you need for that 5K. Now people on the south side say, hey, I don't have to go that far. I have something in my neighborhood that they also have on the north side that's related to fitness now.
And that's things like I said, don't get promotion. Like I ain't even heard of. I guarantee you go to most neighborhoods, they probably never even heard of that because it's not being promoted as heavy. And one thing I kind of realized too, we have the whole COVID thing going on. We have a lot of schools shut down, things like that. A lot of people, that's like, particularly for the kids, that's like the only place they get their nutrition for the day is some of those school meals, And that's one thing that I think was an unintended consequence of, these school shutdowns and things like that. On top of us having these food deserts, now you have people who not even getting nutrition. It's kind of a running joke in my household because I hate spaghetti. Yeah, you bring spaghetti, and I was like, no. But it's a reason for that. The reason of that is like my mom's and grandma. We got a bunch of people in the house or whatever, so that was the cheapest thing you can cook. You get you a bottle of sauce and you get a bunch of pasta and you just whip up spaghetti, and now we eating that for a week. You got a big old pot of spaghetti. Now you got to get creative with it. Okay, now we got to make it to dessert. Let me put sugar on it. And serve it. Let me get 2 pieces of bread, make a sandwich out of it. Yep. So if you think about that, how nutritious can that be? Just basically eating pretty much sauce and carbs for a week. So
I think that sometimes if we not just teaching how we're doing everything virtual right now. I mean, with our schools and the kids and learning everything. So why not teach them virtually about, proper nutrition on a budget? Like that way they can actually tell their parents, hey, look, mom, look at this is what I learned. That you don't have to, we may not have a lot of money. However, here are the healthy options that we can stretch. We would have beans all the time. We're going to have regular beans. We're going to mash them up. We're going to do so many different things with just beans and rice. But guess what? Beans and rice are some of the healthiest things for you. Packed a lot of protein in it, a lot of carbs that you may need to survive. Instead of just going for the pastas that are out there. Get a bunch of beans. You'll be happy.
And like you say, you can do a lot of things. Do a lot of things with it. Go get some turkey tail. Go get, if you eat pork, just throw some ham in there. Whatever you got to do to spice it up. So, yeah, you definitely can. And I had a family friend recently. He was talking about because he's a bigger dude. He's trying to lose some weight, and he was talking about how it's not really eating healthy is expensive in America. It's like, yeah, you got to buy this and you got to buy that, and I'm sitting there thinking man, you get a bag of chicken thighs for freaking. Matter of fact, it was BOGO at one point. You buy one, get one. You get a bag of like you said, a bag of beans. You know what I mean? Cheap stuff. You got your protein. You got some carbs, and you got things you need, right? And got fiber and all that. But people think of it as it costs so much because you're buying this. It's one thing that's a running joke too. That's also is that the salad at McDonald's costs more than the cheeseburger.
Right.
Why do you think that is?
And that's everywhere. Everywhere you go, it's always the salad that costs more. And you're like, what?
Exactly. And it happened to be that crap. What's that one lettuce that has zero nutritional iceberg lettuce?
Yeah.
So they charge you $5.45 for some iceberg lettuce, some cheese, and some dressing,
Yeah.
Making it chill.
Another part, we could start, in the aspect of saying, oh, well, those things are expensive. Well, you could just grow them indoors. Figure out, do a quick, it doesn't take, everyone does everything on YouTube. So just YouTube it and research, how do I grow indoor plants? How do I go ahead and grow tomatoes indoors? How do I grow, spinach? Or how do I even grow, the the greens that I need to eat, how do I grow those indoors? And if you don't have access to a garden outside, or if you don't have a garden outside, figure out where is the nearest community garden. Usually those places are free. You can just go and grab the food that you need. And if there isn't one, hey, grab your alderman, grab a couple of people in the community, go petition, get a piece of land, and form a community garden so that everybody in your community can eat.
Exactly. And that's a good point you hit on too, because I'll tell people all the time that cell phone, that supercomputer in your pocket is good for more than taking selfies and, perusing Facebook, right? Mm-hmm. You get so much information available at your fingertips. And like you said, you can look up how to grow a community garden, how to grow things indoor, right? Mm-hmm. And you need to be proactive in looking at that, and I don't think a lot of people take that into consideration. So that's one thing. That's kind of what you send down to the next generation. That kind of what you kind of instill into your children is to, hey, look this up. Be more self-sufficient when it comes to your health, when it comes to what you put in your body and what you eat. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't take much. Seeds are pretty cheap, you know what I mean? And you can go anywhere and get you a grow light, or even put the plants outside during the day. I know Chicago is kind of hard to grow things, so
That's sort of indoor thing came to mind.
Yeah. It's a big difference from Florida to Chicago. I tell you right now, I just left from outside with like some basketball shorts on, and I look at Chicago, it's like 32 degrees. Oh, snow less. But it's ways you can do that. Like I said, growing indoor, you got different lights. If you can grow the purple, you can grow you some food. You know what I mean? So,
exactly.
So we did that, and that brings us kind of to another important topic. With the education in the Black community, seems like there's a lack of Black Americans who kind of know basic Black history, important figures. So, in your opinion, how do we change this narrative? How do we instill that knowledge of self into the next generation?
I would say that this pandemic and homeschooling is a blessing in disguise, because now it gives parents a chance to see what their children are actually learning in school, which in a lot of cases is a bunch of crap, especially when it comes to history. So you get a chance to see that. And now it's for those parents who say, oh, well, we want to have like a teaching pod or whatnot so our kids can do their homework together. Okay, that's nice. But how about a little pod where they actually learn Black history? Because you have a lot of these kids or young people out here who are protesting and everything within the movement, but they don't even know who Fannie Lou Hamer is. They don't even know the people who have paved the way for them to be able to even get out there and protest how they're protesting now. So it's like, if you don't know your past, if you don't know those who laid the foundation, you're either probably going to just end up repeating the same thing over and over again because you didn't bother to take the time to research. And like you said, you have that thing in your hand that can tell you so much. And that's great. But that thing can also point you in the direction to find that book, because everything is not going to be on that phone, on that internet.
Exactly.
The books are going out of style, and the truth is always going to be in that book, some form of it. You have to decipher it, but it's going to be there. And so it says that for the older generation to point out to these young people and to bring it to their attention, especially like, those who are, in their 20s and are protesting, bring it to their attention. Show them the pathway. And if they choose to take it up and go further with it, great. You can't stuff anything down anyone's throat. But you can provide them with the tools to say, hey, this is how you do it. This is what was done before. This is what you need to read. This is what you need to watch. And for parents with younger kids, one thing that always irritates me, I don't have any children. However, when parents say to me, oh, I want to shield my child from racism and the ills that are going on in America, why? You're putting them at a huge disadvantage by shielding them. Like, I first learned that I was Black when I was 6. I'm happy that I learned. My mom didn't have to tell me. I got called the N-word right off by a girl and said that she didn't want to play with me anymore because I was N-word. Wow. So from that point, my mom said, it's time for you to start learning who you are. Like, you've been indoctrinated already now. So here's your history. And from that point, she started me reading Ebony Magazine's Pictorial History of Black America. That volume now, there's 4 volumes to it. If you look on Amazon, it's $1,000.
Wow.
Yeah. It came out in 1973, I believe. But it's one of those things to start those kids learning things young, because then when they have to go into these schools, these integrated schools, they have a sense of confidence about who they are and where they come from. Because if I didn't have that, I was in all white schools all the time. I got called things so many times, talked about my hair, like when teachers think, oh, you're so special, you're not like the rest of them. That's not a compliment. So you're actually preparing your children to go out there by educating them younger about their history. And that's what we have to do. Stop trying to shield our kids. There's no shielding them.
Exactly. That's a great point. And like I say, man, they got a saying that a man without without knowledge of history or without history is nothing. You can't be nothing without history. If you look at a lot of people, man, because I've been traveled a lot and I've met a lot of people from different walks of life. A lot of these people can trace their ancestral history back to like their back to Ireland or back to Scotland, and they even trace it back to the point you can look up your family shield and all that, and a lot of that knowledge is gone from our people here. We're kind of up creek without a paddle in terms of our history being erased, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I shout out MCS, Melanated Conscious Society, in the beginning of this podcast, which was founded by a brother of mine, Capra L, shout out. He hosted he co-hosted one of the episodes of the podcast. But one thing with that organization was he's trying to do was teach knowledge of self to the youth, because if you get to the youth early enough, and he used to be a football coach too. He still coaches football, so he knows that when you get to these kids young enough and instill some type of foundation into them, it changes the whole path of their life, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why, although football is a contact sport, and maybe many people don't like it, but you have alpha males coaching that sport, and they instill morals and values and things into these kids, and a sense of discipline and a sense of finishing what you start. So, although it may seem like it's just a useless sport, it's very indicative of life if you look at overall the coaching aspect of it and things like that. That's kind of why they're trying to kill it, if you ask me. But
yeah, because there's so many things, life lessons that you learn. You learn leadership. You learn how to follow. Because being a true leader, you have to follow at some point.
Yes.
So you learn all of these different life lessons. You learn discipline, because you have to, know the playbook. You have to be at practice on time. You have to be in the weight room at a different time. Mm-hmm. So many life things that you learn.
Exactly. But with that organization, it was so much stigma. It was almost like pulling teeth at times to get, because he did it on Saturdays. And he got to the point where I will pick your kid up and bring him to, the building where we teaching this knowledge of self. And he going back, and it's not just, teaching knowledge of self with, ancient Kemet and things of that, and, different black historical figures going back, prior to slavery. Because if you look at America, they just try to teach you that it's right. Slavery, and now Martin Luther King, and now you're free, be happy, So it'll take you back.
I don't know when the last time you looked at I want to say a 8th grade U.S. history book.
Oh man,
I had pleasure of doing so not too long ago. I was deeply disturbed. The things that they said in there about slavery, first they called it unpaid labor, and then saying that children had the option to help their parents in the field, that they were fed 3 square meals a day, that it wasn't too terrible. And I was just reading this and I was like, wait, this isn't a book.
Wow.
And this is what our kids are learning about slavery. And then even when it came to world history, my nephew's book had all white pictures of Egyptians, and I said to him, okay, do you think the Egyptians were black or white? He's like, well, of course they were white. Hold on.
Hold on. Yeah. And that's one of the things, like you said, I think you hit on it. You hit on it when you were talking that, they trying to erase history, right? If you erase history, then it's you may repeat the same mistakes you made, right? And it's crazy because I was watching recently one of these protests. I want to say when they were tearing down a lot of these statues, they tried to tear down a lot of these Civil War statues, they call them, and things like that. And I seen it was one sister, she was screaming at this brother, right? Older brother, he had to be about 50s, 60s. She's yelling, shrieking in his face like, why are you on their side? What are you doing? Why are you trying to guard the statue? And he just kept repeating the same thing like, do you know who paid for the statue, right? He kept saying the same thing. Do you know who paid for the statue? Do you know who paid for the statue? And it turns out that, this statue, yeah, although it was depicting, people during, slavery times, whatever, it was played for by former slaves, to honor their history, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
slaves took money out to pay for the statue, so what happened in history, so it's not
Yep.
forgotten. And she's just shrieking in this black man's face, this older gentleman's face, and he was real calm. I give him props. I'd have snapped out, but she's just shrieking, like having a temper tantrum. And, that's part of the programming that we go through, part of the programming that they're trying to put these youth through. Because if you look at a lot of 18, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, I'm kind of showing my age now, it's like, but it's like they have like zero sense of history, like zero sense of, and then they also, are very emotional, but not so much logical.
Yeah.
They don't want to sit there and stop it and go through your research and look at what you did, keep an open mind and go through the critical thinking steps and see what you're talking about.
They're
They
not
go straight to emotion.
thinking at school.
Yeah,
They're not
they go.
thinking part anymore.
No, they don't. They go straight to emotional arguments, straight to even older people. I ain't even going to put it on to 19, 20-year-olds, because I know people that's in their 50s and will go straight into it anymore. You'll bring out, like, I'd had, because sometimes, man, I like to try to enlighten people sometimes, and plus also I like to learn myself. The best way you learn is to debate somebody, right? So if you give me some knowledge that I don't know, some information I don't know, I'm gonna look into it and be like, oh, you know what, you was right, But I'm finding like people like me are very rare now, because if you have these people some, information, you can throw out facts, figures, dates, and they don't care. They're kind of well, I think I'm right, I don't feel that way. It's like, whoa. So I just spent 30 minutes throwing you book references and throwing you facts and figures and things like that, and your counter argument was like, nah, you're wrong. All right.
I mean, thinking about what you were saying about the statue definitely hits for me in the sense of saying that erasure. Because now, I mean, if you couple that with the way that history books are describing slavery, and now you take away the statues, it's like it never happened.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't take long.
Like, I think that, yeah. I mean, and that's, I think the path that we're on is to forget that even happened. And we're also on the path of saying that, hey, well, Black Americans and slavery, that's old news. Also because now what the Black immigrant population is like, I want to say 4 point something million now. So if we're able to just, gloss over and just celebrate all Black immigrants and still classify them as Black and like forget about slavery and not have to talk about that at all, hey, that's perfect for America.
Yep.
Totally forget about what happened.
Nothing to see here. Yeah. and that kind of hits back onto the erasure of history. They have shows on TV right now, the mysteries of Egypt, the mysteries of this great land, and it's like, it's not mysteries, it was known. And what happened is people came through and erased that history. You came and shot the nose off the Sphinx. You came and, destroyed all the works of art, destroyed the books. So now it's like, almost like you're talking about an alien civilization, right?
Right.
They don't even know how they built half of the stuff in Egypt or Kemet or whatever you want to call it, right? They don't even know how they built it. And this was common knowledge, So people don't realize, if you look at the long game, if you look at the long-term effects, once you start erasing history, that stuff 2-3 generations is gone, right?
Yep.
So I'm perfectly fine leaving these, and also it kind of absolves, I think, people of guilt. Like, I think that's why a lot of people are hip to it, because it's like, oh, we don't got to see it no more. Our ancestors didn't do that to your people,
Yep.
So.
Yep. I mean, and it's funny when, like, you think, well, not funny, but it's interesting when you think about how people here say that. But go over to Germany and say that about the Holocaust.
Oh, like, you bet not.
Like, it's like the way that Germany treats the Holocaust should be how America treats slavery. And that's the way it should be, or we should just call it the Black Holocaust, the Black American Holocaust over here. Like, because that's what it was. It was a systematic erasure of people. Even after slavery, there was a systematic attempted genocide of us.
Mm-hmm.
That we didn't have to endure, but we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to educate our youth about that. So those things, that whole erasure part, it's like we have to continue those stories and so that we don't forget. So that the next generation doesn't forget, so that they remember, hey, we do have a purpose. We do have a place here in this country. This is my country. Did I choose to come here by choice? No. But I'm here. And
Exactly.
darn well you know and remember that I am here.
Exactly. Great. I think that's the perfect way to end that segment. All right. So we got to hit on. Let's jump to a little bit more recent news. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this latest election and just your thoughts on the whole voting apparatus in general after kind of witnessing what we witnessed lately.
Well, the election in general, I can honestly say that if you're speaking about the presidential election, I didn't care. Being honest.
Put some standing ovation. So go ahead and elaborate on why you didn't care on that.
For me, I was more concerned about the local politics that were going on in the local elections versus the presidential election. We're always trying to push that. But remember, like, the presidency is the figurehead position. And we keep forgetting about the Congress. We keep forgetting about the House and the Senate, the ones who actually make we say, oh, well, there's just a bunch of old white men that are, running the country. Okay, well, don't forget about the House and the Senate. Like, there's a bunch of old white men running the country there. Those are the ones that are making the laws. Those are the ones you need to get out of office. Exactly. And then say, oh, Trump is a terrible president. He's bad and everything else. He just did overtly what other people were doing behind the scenes. That's all. He brought anything you say is terrible. You have to look at the positive of any situation. You have to look at the positive aspect of it. And what was the positive aspect of Trump's administration is you got a chance to see just how crappy and racist and bigoted America still is.
That's the truth. And that's kind of how I felt about a lot of things too. The way I feel about things is that I would rather have a person overtly tell me how they feel, right, and then smile in my face while doing something behind my back. And that's kind of why in the situation with the last presidential election, I didn't really feel, either way. I didn't lean hard either way. And it's kind of crazy to see people out there, doing a wobble in the streets and because, Biden popping bottles and dancing in the streets because, this dude that's been in politics since the first season of Good Times won an election, and it's like not 10 seasons in when JJ was, saying dynamite every 2 seconds and Janet Jackson was on there. I'm talking the first pilot season of Good Times. Okay. Half that cast is dead. Yeah. Old Joe Biden is about to be president of the United States. And like his baby is the 94 crime bill. That's the only significant thing he pretty much accomplished through his whole political career, if you look back at his whole political career. And that thing was detrimental to black people. And I'm not going to beat a dead horse, people know how I feel about the whole situation. But it's like, you got dudes like Van Jones crying on, national TV because Joe Biden won the presidency. Really, dude? Is that really how we come, black man, that we crying for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? That was sad to me.
It's usual. It's politics as usual. We can look at all the terrible things that, Trump did. But now if we want to talk about, quote unquote, black agenda, now let's actually look at what Trump did when it comes to talking about a black agenda. Let's look at what Biden's done when it comes to talking about a black agenda. Both people just gloss over and act like you don't exist. You're advocating and talking about, like, the concentration camps that they have immigrant children in right now. That's terrible. And they want to say, oh, this is the first time. No. See, that we go back to the erasure part. That's not the first time that children have been in cages and separated from their parents. It's maybe the first time that you all have experienced it, but the Japanese also experienced it. So, but they get reparations. But we forgetting and erasing parts of history. And that's the thing that is annoying to me when it comes to this election. Everyone wants to say, oh, the first this or the first that. And you're like, hold up. No, it's not. Oh, it's the first time that a black woman has run for president. No, it's not. You guys forgot. Like, you know, these things. And then even for Kamala Harris, it's like, okay, you're just totally erasing her South Asian side. Like, keep emphasizing her being a black woman. So that's just disrespectful in my opinion. Like, acknowledge your other part. Don't just erase it. Stop trying to erase things so that it fits your particular agenda. And that's one thing I can say about, like, at least the Trump administration. I was happy with the non-erasure part of it. It was just in your face. Very blunt.
Exactly. I respect the skinhead way more than I respect the Klansman, right? Skinhead. I'm gonna wear my bald head, I'm gonna wear my bomber jacket and my red laces and my boots, and I'm gonna tell you, Negro, I don't like you. Meanwhile, the Klansman is gonna, be at your local library greeting you, and then at nighttime putting on the sheets. So I'd rather have it be in my face.
Yep, up close and personal. There we go.
There you go. And that kind of brings an interesting thing too. It's like, what is black these days? It's such a broad category now. I can't even define what black is, right? You brought up the example of Kamala, right? And I'm seeing a lot of, black girl magic posts and things like that in terms of her. But, if you trace her lineage back, her family tree, her mom is Indian, not the feather. We're talking about the dot. We're talking about from the actual country of India. And they were the Brahmin class. The Brahmin class is like the top in India. Those are the doctors, the scholars, the top of the top line of, Indian population. And her father's side, I want to say, was Jamaican, right? Mm-hmm. And now, are they black Jamaican? Now, people don't know it is white Jamaican.
Right.
Between ethnicity, between ethnicity and race. That topic right there kind of messes people up, because when you say Jamaican, it's like, oh, okay, it's like South African. It is white South Africans and it's black South Africans, right? So that's just between race and ethnicity. But now they, told Kamala is like, the first female black, right? But she was sworn in Attorney General as the first Indian American Attorney General. The black thing didn't even come up till the presidential election. So,
right.
I think it's almost like our people are so desperate to have, figureheads and have examples of what we should be, that we're willing to, change the narrative to fit that, perspective, or to fit that ideal, to be that inspiration, I felt that same thing about 44, Obama, and I voted for it. That was during the time I was still, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed about politics, right? It's like, yeah, we got the first black man in there, And then when you're doing the research in his background, okay, your mom was African. Your dad was African from Kenya. Your mom's white. You're raised in Hawaii by your white grandparents. Had mostly privileged lifestyle. And then, it's like you went to Harvard. It's like, your experience is nothing like my experience. You know what I mean? Yes, we share a kind of a hue, we share a color, but your experience kind of doesn't mirror my experience in America, right?
Right.
So it's kind of almost, you have to look at, the term black. What defines black?
Well, I think one of the things when it comes to saying black within America is that we've had our first black immigrant president. We had our first black immigrant vice president. We still have not had a black American descendant of slaves president. And maybe these aspects are progress to get back to us, but it's like, as long as America, and we can just throw that when you say what is black, and just keep throwing black out there, it's like, hey, you have black American descendants of slaves here in America that when they ran for office didn't get anywhere close to actually winning it. And I feel that that's intentional, because then it comes to like, oh, those people, or they're going to, try for reparations. Whereas when you have black immigrant president, they don't have a call or a internal feeling or anything like that to say, hey, reparations needs to happen, because they have no actual ties to that. And that's the thing. I mean, for me, I was happy Obama won, definitely, but I saw the progress within it, but I was still waiting for a Black American descendant of slaves. Like, if Michelle had ran and she won, oh yeah, I would have been thrilled and everything else. You know, dark skinned Black women, American descendant of slaves. Yes. Now that comes full circle with America, because it goes from you're a descendant of the people who helped build the White House, and now you're leading it. And so that would come full circle for me. But this doesn't come full circle for me at all.
Exactly.
This is another placated promise type thing to me.
Exactly.
So give you a little cookie crumb, and you'll be satisfied for another 10, 20 years.
Well, you know, the way things going, look like she might be president. I don't know if we just had two of the oldest. That's another thing too. This last election, we had two of the oldest candidates ever to run for the president. I want to say 76 and 75 or something like that, or 76 and 74. I want to say Biden is going to be 80 years old by the time his first term, like 81, 80 years old. That's crazy. That's like nuts. You got baby boomers running. That's another thing I think that kind of, you know, lowered the motivation, at least for me. It's like, you got dudes, that baby boomers, yo, running. What kind of new ideas could they possibly present? And then bring it back to the first female Black vice president. I guess you guys completely ignored the Green Party, who was running Angela Walker, who's ADOS side, you would have put it. Act like she doesn't exist, or the Green Party don't exist. Y'all could have had a Black female vice president who wasn't compromised and, you know, didn't have a part in locking up millions of Black men. But, you know, they completely ignore that, you know, and it's crazy, because when I talk about third parties to people and stuff like that, and people watch that first debate was like, it was like, whoa, what are we doing here, right? I've had so many people hit me up asking me about like third, because they know I'm into, you know, I'm probably never voting Democrat or Republican ever again in my life. If they got a third party, I don't even care if I know who it is. Hey, check mark. Because I feel we just need to mix it up. But, you know, I had so many people hitting me up after that first. Yeah. Actually, check a follow on Twitter, very smart. You got Sonny Johnson and Felicia Killings, and they're talking about starting like a conscientious conservative Black party and stuff like that. It's like, okay, people are making moves out here, and it's just people just want to keep, you know, doing the same old thing, man. And it's crazy to me how when you talk to somebody, and then one person brought an interesting stat to me. I want to say Congress has like the lowest approval rating. Every year they like 12%, 10% approval rating, but like you have like a 90%, you know, re-election rate.
Yep.
How is that possible? How is like Nancy Pelosi been in office since the 80s, robbed, raping, and pillaging? You know, how's Mitch McConnell still? How is these people still around? And you know that, you know, the job they're doing is freaking terrible, yo. Like,
if I was doing as terrible as I'd be fired, you know?
Exactly. You couldn't even work at McDonald's, you know, pulling in the type of, you know, evaluation work these dudes are doing. Congress don't even meet they work about 100 days out the year, and you're getting paid for life. You know, it's just.
But they're still getting raises, you know?
Vote on what other job? I'm in the wrong profession, because what other job can you vote on your own raise, you know, on your own benefits? What should we do this year?
It's I think a running joke that if you want to become a millionaire, run for Congress. Like that.
For the minimal work.
Right. I mean, when I think about, again, it goes to that educating our youth, even like in school, educate them about the governmental system, not just the Senate or the House or the presidency, but the federal judgeships. You know, educate them about, you know, the local judgeships, the local, you know, politics. And then they turn 18. For some of them, they run for office if they choose to. Well, you just had I think 29 or 20, something like that, who, conservative guy in Virginia, I believe, ran and won. You have, you know, people in Michigan, and even one person that I knew growing up, he ran and won the mayoralship in Des Plaines at, I think, the age of 21.
Word. Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, I think, I'm fully for, getting off the Democrat and even the Republican plantation for our people, and try something different. Like you said, if you look at the values of a lot of people, man, we kind of value family. And a lot of things, I want to say this last election is kind of going further into our topics, but, you had, almost a record turnout for, black men to Trump, right? Which, I mean, it still was the minority, of course. You're not going to get 80-90% for Trump, but you had almost went from 45% to 20% for Trump. And I think you've seen a rejection of a lot of the leftist type of, propaganda they putting out here is kill the patriarchy, you're seeing a lot of division between black men and black women particularly. And it's just, I think that was a more so telling of the rejection of where the left of the Democrat Party is going. But at the same time, we're homeless. It's we don't want to, necessarily mess with them, but we also don't want to rock with the right. So it's you had so many, I think disenfranchised particularly black men out here who's looking for, something to believe in or a different way to go. And we kind of didn't find that, I think it was a big opportunity for, one of these parties or even a third party to kind of reach out to the black community and present something different. And we just never got it,
Right.
It's like they couldn't see the vision. So
there was no actual policies. It was just a pomp and stance. And it was that percent of people saying, hey, I'm not with pomp and stance. I actually want, some kind of implementation of policies, give me a plan. And I
tangible.
think, yeah, something tangible. Yeah. I think a part of that 20% for black men, I don't think the Biden-Harris ticket was the thing. I think if Biden had ran with somebody else, he might have gotten that other 20%. But I think the Harris part of that ticket was part of, whatever percentage of it, it was a part of, the black men saying, hey, I'm not voting for that ticket.
Exactly. And Nina Turner was sitting right there. And but she's too, I said that before, I said she has way too much of a backbone and way too, she was one of the Bernie's people or whatever. But if you watch any Nina Turner interviews when she go on CNN or when she go on any of these, she does not play. And like I said, she's ADOS all the way, and she does not play no games. So I'm you're not gonna get nobody like that, because a person like that's hard to control, man. You don't want nobody with a spine and
right,
a backbone and has morals and values.
Yep.
So that brings us to where do we go now? So we pretty much the election is called. You got people throwing temper tantrums. You got legislation out there and lawsuits and things like that, but I think ultimately, it looks like we're going to be stuck with the Biden-Harris ticket, for the next 4 years at least. So after, all the wobbling in the street, after y'all done wobbling and, popping bottles, where do we actually go as a community post-election?
I will say that this election doesn't really change anything for us.
Okay.
We're going why? I mean, the policies that were in place weren't truly affecting us in the first place. I mean, we had more, black entrepreneurship popping up in previous years. People are like, hey, I can actually do this and do this, and people deciding to pull their money together and purchase land and buildings and things like that. That was happening more and more over the last 4 years. So to say, well, from here, we stay consistent. We stay on the path. We stay on the path to wanting to wanting the change, putting together a plan, and then letting them know, hey, this is our plan. We have people that ran for office from these. We keep on that path. We don't let up. That's where we go.
I feel you.
We don't say, oh, well, now we have a quote-unquote black vice president. That don't mean nothing. When's the last time you heard anything about a vice president in the first place? People forgot that Pence never even existed. So
poor Pence.
Right. Go back through history, and I want you to name every vice president that existed. And it's oh, wait. Yeah, exactly. Unless they became president, you really don't remember who they were.
Yeah, that was my weakness in Jeopardy. And R.I.P. Alistair Begg, man, I heard he died today. But it was like they had a whole category on vice presidents. I'm like, I really don't know who the hell these people are, yeah. Like, you know,
Right.
who? FDR's vice president? I have no clue. I don't know. And I think you hear something real powerful too. So like entrepreneurship, man. I think economics is the key to anything, man. I think all the statistics, all the figures will show you that, you know, once you reach a certain amount of wealth in your community, you honestly don't care who the hell becomes president, because guess what? Or senator or representative, because guess what? You just gonna buy them once they get in office.
Right.
You never
You're
see
gonna your money and you send your own there. I mean, that's the one part we're all missing. Not just sending our own, but sending our own who aren't going to be compromised there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And you don't see the Arab community, you don't see the Asian community, you don't see these other communities stressing about elections, period. You don't even hear from them, because guess what? They learned the golden rule, right? They just go out and buy whoever makes it. I was in line, you know, to go do my voting thing or whatever, and I ain't see like no Arabs, no Chinese, like no, and they're like not stressing about the vote like we are, right? I seen post after post in the black community about, you know, the vote and go out and vote, and it, almost like you getting paid for it. Like, man, I wish y'all would promote my podcast half the way y'all promote this voting, you know, or promote any black business half as much as y'all promote, you know, the voting thing. But it's like, it almost was life or death for our community, you know, if you look at. But in reality, if you go through page after page of president and vice president, and you have some blatantly, openly racist presidents, some of them ran on the platform of screw these niggers, you know.
Yep.
And now it's like, y'all got to do who, you know, maybe Trump talks mean or whatever. You may not like what he says or whatever, but, you know, we're going to be all right. Like, we've been through worse, you know.
Yep. Oh, that's the one part, too, how you just touched on that. We've been through worse. People want to say, it's terrible. Black Americans, we've been through hell and back. So, like, this is not that. Like, we know how to make things happen and make things work. We just have to educate ourselves on what our ancestors did, so what our grandparents did, you know, and about the whole landowning aspect of it. And let's go back to education. When everyone talks about, oh, well, you know, black people, we need to own land again. I'm sorry, we own land, and it was stolen. So how about we bring that to the forefront as well, when we're talking about things? How about America address the fact that lots of land was stolen, illegally stolen from black people, black Americans? Talk about that. Like, a whole entire city, Wilmington, stolen from black people. Like, let's put those things in the bucket if we want to talk about, you know, hey, well, we don't want to say that, you know, slavery happened a long time, we're not going to compensate you for that. All right, cool. How about you just compensate me for what happened 60 years ago?
Exactly. I think even the UN declared that, you know, even back, like, as far as like 100 years ago, you know, not even that far back, we were basically victims of terrorism, if you look at it. You know, you were hanged if you tried to go vote. You were, you know, killed if you tried to move in a certain neighborhood. That greatly affects, you know, the future generations. Now, you can't build upon that wealth. Wealth is not a one-shot thing. You have to build upon it generation by generation. It's not
my family ended up in Chicago because my grandfather and my uncle were killed. The white people wanted it. So they killed them and burned a cross in front of their home, and my grandmother and her brothers and sisters fled north. Like, that's how my family got. And I found that whole story out recently, and it's like, no, it's after I had made a post about the Great Migration. Let's stop calling it the Great Migration and saying that black Americans came north and left the South to find better jobs. No, they were fleeing genocide and ethnic cleansing. That's what they were fleeing. Let's call it for what it was. And after I made that post and I was telling my mom about it, then she tells me this whole story, and I was like, oh, that's how we ended up in the North.
I think that's pretty much it, because, you know, my people from Shaw, Mississippi, and, you know, they left in, the 50s, 40s, something like that, and it wasn't under, hey, let's go north, it looks nice up there. It's like, we got to get out of Mississippi, you know. We had a whole branch of my family, I want to say, my auntie found a branch of my family that I guess one of my great cousins or great had end up killing a white man that spit in his face with an axe handle, and they had to move that whole branch of the family, had to leave Mississippi, change their name, move somewhere else, and I can think like in the 90s they just found that branch of the family, and her doing research and all that other stuff. So that's what you had to deal with, rather than just that one person being prosecuted. If you committed a crime, they gonna wipe out your whole family. Everybody has to go. Yep. So that's the way it was. But I also recognize, like I said, that economics is, I think, key to uplifting the people. And it kind of, when I brought that up, upon a time, I had people come to me like, oh, what about Black Wall Street? What about this? What about that? It's like, that was 100 years ago, my dude. Like, we're going to never build businesses. We're never going to uplift ourselves economically because, white people killed black people 100 years ago. Or even if you go 60 years ago or whatever. So we're just supposed to stop because that's such a defeatist attitude to me, and I can't rock with that,
No. It's like, and people say, oh, buy back the block. I'm honestly, I understand entrepreneurship of buying the properties there, but eventually I'm the person that says, hey, cool, buying back the block, that's nice. Now that you bought the block, now let's set the boundary lines, have the right voting population within those boundaries, and declare that we're a town. Like let's do that if you really want to buy back the block, or find some unincorporated place and start moving people there, and then form your own town.
Mm-hmm.
You're setting your own laws and everything like that, and building more black businesses, bringing more black entrepreneurship there, and build up your own little spot.
Yep. That's kind of where I go when I think of the reparation thing. I honestly don't even want your fiat currency because you're just going to devalue the currency. I think of more of along the lines of, all right, give us this unincorporated area where we can, build land, build up businesses, build up a community, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we can elect our own sheriffs. You can build your own house. Whatever we need to do, we can do that as a community. And that would be the reparations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the way I would rather do, because land is invaluable.
Exactly.
You can't make more land.
That's why they killed us. That's why they killed the Native Americans for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a finite resource. So you cannot make more land unless, they trying to do it. They trying to fly to Mars or something, whatever they're trying to do. But in terms of Earth, it's only so much land you got, and even then, one thing is kind of crazy that I learned, past, because when you're on the expressway and when you're on the highways and you see those little turnoffs, and you'll see a pond, a retention pond they call them, and things like that. They had to take that land, they had to take that earth just to build these bridges, just to build, this turnoff on this expressway and this highway. That's how limited land is. They got to dig holes and put water there to give you the illusion, so it's not a big ditch sitting right there. And that's just, a testament to how valuable land is, how valuable earth is, So that's why I say, if you're going to pay me in land.
Mm-hmm.
Pay me in land, mofo.
Yeah. I like that with black entrepreneurship, you see more in the education aspect of things. Here's how you buy that land, here's how you get into real estate. That's another thing, get into real estate. All these aspects that are going to enable us to build up that wealth. So we keep doing those things and filling those spaces that needs to be filled, or creating those spaces. Hey, I think we're on the right track to doing that and creating more black businesses. Maybe we'll actually get back to the percentage of black businesses that existed, 6 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Or black home ownership, or
because all those things went straight down.
Yeah, straight down. That's one thing I try to point out too. I have people drop stats on me and things like that. I'm like, during Obama, black home ownership actually went down. That's not a good thing. That's almost a measurement of wealth. I brought it up to somebody else when I was talking to them about how they, measure how a town or a city is on the upswing. How they measure it is how many young white people are moving to a town, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, Austin, Texas, I want to say is a number one spot right now. And the reason it's a number one spot is because college graduate white people, young white people in their 20s are moving to Austin, Texas. So now that, value of that land, the value of them homes there, or even on the outskirts of them homes, are just shooting up. And that's things you need to know. That's things you need to research and, know about property, know about how and that just shows to how the system isn't made for you. Like, if a bunch of, young black people move to town, the value gets the property gets devalued. They look at it, it's called white flight. So as soon as a bunch of black people move to an area, the white people flee, and the property value in that area goes down. So that just, a testament to how the system is not really made for you, right?
Very true. It's like, even though it's not made for you, you learn how to work it.
Learn how to work it, exactly. Yeah. So I think we hit it up. I think that's pretty good analysis, unless you got something else you want to add on the end.
I get announcements real quick.
Oh yeah, we're about to head into the wrap up. So
okay.
So I'm gonna let you plug your business information. I know you got some events coming up, your social medias and all that. It's your time to drop all that. So go ahead, hit us with that.
Okay. So let's see. With the Black and Educated, we are doing a Kwanzaa 5K coming up from December 26th to January 1st. We started a run series called the We Are Run series, and so it's all with Black history and dedicated to us, and for us to get out there and run. This run is dedicated, the funds from this one are going towards our gift bag program for the homeless and also the starting up of our literacy program. So if you want to register for it, it's open now, www.kwanzaa5k.com. If you're interested in learning more about Fit Black and Educated, it's fitblackandeducated.org. And also, I'm a personal trainer as well. My company is Apex Athletics Academy, and we do online trainings as well. So you can follow Fit Black and Educated at FBE_INC on Instagram, and then also on Facebook. And if you want to follow me personally for my fitness journeys, it's Mara Fit. So.
All right. Well, and with that, I want to say I appreciate you coming on and chatting it up with me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And as always, to our audience, we love you. We speak to y'all. Pretty soon we're going to record next week our normal episode of, the Harsh Reality Podcast. So make sure y'all subscribe. And also leave a comment because it greatly helps the show. And that's pretty much all I got. So with that, peace.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.